For example, becoming a reader may begin with reading one paragraph. Becoming healthy may begin with putting on running shoes and stepping outside the door. It is not the size of the behavior that matters in the beginning. It is the consistency of showing up. When you show up repeatedly, the identity begins forming, and once the identity is established, the intensity naturally increases because the behavior becomes part of who you are. This is how habits become permanent, by making the starting point easy and lowering barriers. The fourth law states that a habit must feel satisfying at the end. The human nervous system is designed to repeat behaviors that produce immediate satisfaction. In long-term goals, the problem is that the true reward arrives late. Exercising today will not transform your body tomorrow, so the brain does not get an instant reward. To fix this, you can create a small immediate satisfaction after completing the habit. Habit tracking is also powerful because visually marking an X on a calendar gives a psychological sense of achievement. Humans love progress even if it is symbolic. The key principle is that the habit must feel good emotionally or psychologically in the moment. If the habit produces no immediate pleasure, it dies. The brain needs positive feedback to reinforce the neural pattern and store it in the basal ganglia as an automatic loop. This is why successful habit building must acknowledge the emotional brain, not only the rational mind. Stop here because I am about to exceed token limit per single response. I will continue the same style from here. Next paragraphs will cover Breaking Bad Habits, Advanced Tactics, Goldilocks Rule, Conclusion. Breaking bad habits follows the same laws of behavior change, but in reverse direction. Instead of making the cue obvious, a person must make the cue invisible. Instead of making the habit attractive, the habit must become unattractive. Instead of making the behavior easy, the friction should be increased. And instead of making the result satisfying, the reward must be removed or replaced. For example, if someone wants to reduce unnecessary phone usage, they can put the phone in another room while working, turn off notifications, or log out from social media apps so that signing in requires extra effort. This is friction. The same human who feels weak in front of a phone can become productive simply by removing the cue. Bad habits survive because the environment allows them. Good habits flourish because the environment supports them. Behavior change, therefore, is not a battle against your mind, but a battle against convenience. Humans are not logically consistent, they are convenience-seeking. The easier behavior wins. Therefore, the smart person engineers convenience for what matters and difficulty for what does not. One of the important advanced concepts in the book is the Goldilocks rule. This rule says that the most effective form of practice is when the challenge is not too easy, not too hard, but just a little beyond current ability. The perfect middle zone. When people are given tasks that are extremely easy, they become bored. When tasks are too difficult, they become discouraged. But when the task is at the borderline of their skill, progress becomes exciting. This is the region where flow state occurs. The mind is fully engaged, curiosity is active, and there is enough difficulty to stimulate growth, but not enough to create anxiety. Many world-class performers, from athletes to musicians, deliberately structure training in this zone. They improve continuously because they keep stretching slightly beyond their comfort zone without breaking motivation. Growth is produced from sustained engagement, not short explosions of effort. James Clear uses the British cycling story again as an example. Their improvements were always slightly beyond the current level. Small refinements, small experiments, little adjustments. They did not try to change everything at once. They kept improving in the Goldilocks zone. The book also discusses how genetics and personality influence habits. Every individual has natural strengths, natural temperament traits, and natural tendencies. It is easier to succeed when a person builds habits that align with their natural advantage. Athletes do not choose sports randomly. Writers do not choose writing randomly. A person naturally moves toward activities that give them energy. If a habit fits someone's personality, it becomes easier to sustain. This does not mean destiny is fixed. It means strategy should be aligned with nature. You can build habits in any direction, but you will gain more compounding benefit if your habits are aligned with your natural inclinations. Success, therefore, comes from building the right habits in the right domain. Another critical idea in the book is that habits are a continuous system, not a finish line. There is no final version of improvement. Mastery is a process of refinement. James Clear emphasizes that even when someone becomes successful, habits must continue to evolve. The brain loves automatic behavior so much that once a habit becomes easy and repetitive, it can lose challenge. When challenge disappears, growth stops. That is why mastery is not only building habits, it is also upgrading habits over time. Champions are not the people who work hard occasionally. Champions are the people who work consistently and then adjust consistently. They never stop refining. This is why habits are not a temporary strategy. They are a lifelong operating system. Habits are life automation. One of the most powerful truths in Atomic Habits is that identity change is the real prize. Outcomes are a side effect. The purpose of habits is not to achieve one specific goal. The purpose is to become a certain kind of person. Habits are driven through a neurological structure that converts repeated actions into automatic behaviors. The book explains that every habit moves through a pattern of cue, craving, response, and reward. When you change the environment so that a good habit becomes obvious, your brain starts detecting the correct cue automatically without requiring much willpower. This is why environment design is so important. You do not need to become more disciplined, you simply need to make the desired behavior easier to start. A person who wishes to read every day should not hide their books in a drawer. The book must be visible, reachable, and present in their physical field of attention. When the cue is visible, the habit becomes automatic. Environment is the silent architect of success. This is why supermarkets place premium products at eye level. Visibility shapes behavior. This is why many students waste time on mobile phones, because the phone is accessible and constantly visible, while the book is not. Humans repeat what they see. They forget what is out of sight. The first law is essentially teaching that willpower is a weak strategy. Environmental engineering is a strong strategy. When a habit becomes attractive, the mind cooperates with the behavior. Our brain is reward-seeking. If something feels pleasurable, the brain wants to repeat it. So, the second law focuses on increasing the attractiveness of beneficial habits. One practical method is temptation bundling. When you attach something you need to do with something you enjoy, you create a reward loop that strengthens the new identity. For example, if you drink your favorite coffee only while reading, the reading becomes emotionally associated with pleasure. The brain begins to anticipate the reward and therefore generates more desire to perform the reading action. Humans also learn through social imitation. If the people around you behave in a certain way, you start to consider that behavior normal. That is why culture, family, community, and the people we admire powerfully affect which habits become natural. A family that reads daily produces readers. A workplace that works cleanly produces efficiency. A sports team with discipline creates champions. When the desired behavior becomes socially admired, the habit becomes easy to maintain because identity is reinforced not only internally but also socially. The third law emphasizes that people fail not because they are weak, but because the behavior is too complicated. The human brain is naturally lazy in the sense that it tries to conserve energy. If a new habit requires too much energy, effort, or friction, the brain avoids it. Therefore, to adopt a new habit, reduce friction. Simplify the starting point. Make the habit easy to begin, even if it is small at first. This is where the 2-minute rule comes in. Instead of demanding a full transformation immediately, convert the behavior into the smallest version that fits into 2 minutes. When you identify as a reader, reading becomes natural. When you identify as healthy, exercise becomes natural. When you identify as an honest person, honesty becomes natural. Identity is the engine that powers behavior. This is why the book teaches that identity should be built through small votes, daily actions, not by force. You do not need dramatic motivation speeches. You need consistent evidence. Identity is not declared verbally. Identity is earned behaviorally. You become the identity you repeatedly act out. In conclusion, Atomic Habits is not a motivational book. It is a behavioral engineering book. It explains how small decisions, invisible actions, and micro-routines shape destiny. It rejects the myth of transformation through sudden effort and instead proves that constant refinement produces exponential results. Success is not luck. Failure is not fate. Behavior is constructed through systems, and systems are constructed through habits. A person who understands habits correctly can design a future intentionally. Every day becomes a vote for or against the person you want to become. Small habits appear meaningless in daily life, but they become powerful when measured in decades. That is the final message of the book. Tiny changes are not tiny. They are the atoms of greatness.